Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Hello, everybody, and welcome into another duly noted podcast, as always, presented by the great folks at Titan MRI. And we're coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator studios, which are very occupied today. There are high school kids, actual football players with their jerseys on all over the place. They're filming, I don't even know what they're filming. It's some kind of high school.
Yeah, it's the 2023 High School
Media Days, okay. So they're filming that right now, 2023 High School Media Days, and a bunch of big guys walking around here, I can tell you that. But it won't distract me at all. I can deal with people walking by all the time. In fact, we used to do radio, and you felt like you were in a zoo. Coach Spurrier will join us a little bit later in the second segment, as he always does, and look forward to that. We may have a guest Thursday. Thursday's going to be unique. Thursday, I'm going to try to do the show from home to see if it works. I wanted to start doing some shows from home, maybe all eventually, but only if we can get the right production values. I know that some people have complained about the sound. We're trying to get better at that. It is a struggle sometimes because of the equipment, but I think we're hopefully going to be better at that. So we may have a guest Thursday. If we don't, Robbie will be on to do yes, no, where, maybe, and then we'll just talk to him a little longer. But we'll see what happens there. And again, if you go Friday morning and you say, hey, there's no duly noted podcast up, you just go, oh, it didn't work out. But we're going to try it anyway. All right, let us start off with as we always do, with our process service of Gainesville starting with number 1, which is SEC Media Days, which was, I thought, so far very uneventful. And it's kind of funny because you start out thinking, man, I wish I was there. Oh, I used to love that. And then after about the 4th coach, you go, man, I'm glad I'm not there. I'm glad I can just watch it on TV and turn it off and turn it over to Mike and Molly or whatever when I feel like it. But not a whole lot going on there. Everybody's optimistic. Everybody thinks they're going to be good. I mentioned this to Robbie off the air. We were on the radio yesterday because Jeff was gone, but we were and actually Jeff is going to join us today for Yes, No, Where, Maybe, the 3rd segment. Jeff Cardozo. But so Robbie and I said, Robbie, there's 14 teams in this league. They all play 8 games. Somebody's losing every one of those games. And that's the problem, is everybody goes in with high hopes. Missouri goes in with high hopes. Florida goes in with high hopes. Mississippi State goes in. There's a lot of talk about how good they may be. Everybody wants to talk. That's why they call it talking season, right? So you have no idea whether any of these teams are going to be good, bad, indifferent, good, bad, or ugly. But it is kind of fun to watch a little bit of it. You can't take too much of it because in the end, it really doesn't matter. But it's great pub for the league. The league's going to Dallas next year. That'll be interesting. I was not surprised by that move because I've been hearing that for a while, to be honest with you. I think 3 or 4 years ago, we heard that they were going to try to go to Dallas, and we just didn't know when. I'm surprised they're doing it for the first year Texas gets in. The only reason is it's like Texas has gotten everything it's always wanted in the other conference, and that was the biggest reason they had problems in that conference. And you know what happened? They moved to a new conference, and they go, and we'd like the SEC Media Days to be in our state, about an hour from where we live, maybe more than that. Austin to Dallas, probably about an hour and a half. We did it one time, Kevin Brockway and myself. Florida won the NCAA first 2 rounds in Austin, and then they went to Dallas, and it was a fun trip. I actually enjoyed being there. The hotel that they're going to do it at, the Omni, is a great hotel. But anyway, they did not a whole lot's come out. There was a Pro Football Focus, which is important because Pro Football Focus looks at your skill level more than your stats. And I do believe it to be accurate. And in this case, 2 Gators were named the first team all SEC on the Pro Football Focus list, both on defense. The defense that's been so bad that we've talked about for the last couple of years. Obviously, Jason Marshall's one, and I believe in that. I just did a thing for Gators Wire about the 12 best players in the SEC, and I put Jason Marshall on there. I believe in him. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to help solidify that defense and make it great. Hopefully he can be a team leader. They need those more than anything. Coach talks about that all the time. And Princely was the other one. And, you know, he's got a chance to be great, and we'll see if he is. And we keep seeing stuff from, but again, I've said this a million times, and I'll say it one more time. Nothing good comes out of camp, because all you're getting is what the coaches want you to hear, because you're not allowed to attend. You can go watch 2 minutes of it. So the only thing that comes out is bad news, injuries or suspensions or whatever. So you just want to get to that first game, and in this case it's a Thursday night game, without any negative news coming out. All right, number 2, Florida continues to do well in recruiting this weekend, getting Teddy Foster, cornerback from Sarasota. They just keep doing a good job. They're not all 5 stars. Very few of them are, just a couple of them. But they're getting a lot of 4 stars. And just because they're 3 stars, I think Urban was the guy who was obsessed with the rankings. And Tom Lemming could dictate who Florida got in those days. It's weird. But I can tell you some stories. And maybe I will one day on Pat Dooley's Storytime. Not today. I got another one for you. But anyway, Florida continued to do well in recruiting. Baseball also, they got a guy from Vanderbilt, from Georgia Tech, who's pretty good, and catcher. They've got 2 catchers now. They were down because 2 transferred and 1 BT left. So baseball also hitting it, and I know they're not done. I know now whether they get a splash name, I don't know. And again, guys, I'm going to tell you this. It all comes down to NIL. And I know that a lot of you out there are saying, look, I'm paying enough for tickets, or I don't have that kind of money. I'm not begging you. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just telling you the facts. The facts are it comes down to NIL money in a lot of the cases. It's the biggest reason that LSU is a national champ. And Florida was second. Florida spent a lot of money on NIL too, with Waldrop and a couple other guys as well. So anyway, that's what's going on in recruiting. Number 3 on Process Service of Gainesville starting 5. I did watch a lot of golf this weekend. In fact, our play of the weekend is going to come from golf. But this was, I really enjoyed watching Rory McIlroy this weekend play. He was, to birdie the last 2 holes to win, and it was just fun to watch that tournament. Unfortunately, it was tape delayed, and the worst thing for me was, unfortunately, I saw it on Twitter that he had won. So when I went to watch it, I'm like, it's not going to be that good. But it still was good. But it's going to be, I think he has won. I think I saw this on Twitter. And again, I'm not saying everything on Twitter is true, but that's where I go for my news. He has won now the Canadian, U.S., Scottish, Irish, and British Opens. 5 Open championships. That's a lot of trophies. 24 wins in his career. So that was fun to watch this weekend. I also, to get to number 4 on the Process Service of Gainesville starting 5, I also watched a lot of Wimbledon. More Wimbledon than I think I've ever watched in my life. Well, not in my life, because when I was younger and married to a tennis pro, I watched a ton of tennis, and McEnroe versus Borg, in which I actually watched the movie just the other day, and maybe that got me fired up for it, was one of the best matches ever. This was maybe as good as that. It was fun to watch, and Carlos Alcaraz, who won it. I thought about sending a text to Carlos Alvarez, who's been on this show twice, and saying, hey, nice win at Wimbledon, but I didn't do that. It was weird because I was on the elliptical, and they start playing this mammoth game. So it was 3-1 in the third set, right? And they start playing this mammoth game, and it goes forever. I think it was 27 minutes. So I can't get off the elliptical. I can't quit watching it. Because if I get off it, I can't do that. So I say, I'm going to stay until I wore myself out. I can tell you that. And the guy next to me was the same way. He goes, I can't get off. I go, yeah, we're going to have to get off eventually. But that was great tennis. And I tell you what, this guy Carlos Alcaraz could be the next superstar on the tour. I don't think there's 20 years old, has already got 2 majors. That's pretty good. Now again, sometimes it doesn't work out in the case of Rory. Rory's gone 9 years without a major. You never know how that's all going to work out. And number 5 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5, I wanted to talk about Tennessee and the penalties they got. They finally came down over the weekend, and they were pretty massive financially. Over $8 million, almost $9 million they've got to pay. They lose some scholarships. I don't know how much that's going to affect them. 4 scholarships a year. Somebody made a great point on the radio yesterday. What if you just said, hey, we'll get you enough NIL money to cover your scholarship? You don't really lose a scholarship then, and I don't disagree with that. But they got the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee involved in this, and he threatened to sue the NCAA if they gave them a bowl ban. It was all about the bowl ban. That was the only thing. We're done with bowl bans, though. It's pretty clear when you read the language on this. They're done with bowl bans. There's no question about it. You're not going to see them anymore. It's just not part of the NCAA penalties anymore. So, all right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Coach Spurrier. We look forward to that always on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Duly Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where, everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Okay, and welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. The former star of SEC Media Days is here now, Coach Spurrier, who you were the star of SEC Media Days for all those years. We always loved when you were up there.
You remember, Pat, back in the 90s, coaches would get up and sort of poor mouth their team. I know we're picked to do very well, but if this guy gets hurt or we don't have much depth in the offensive line, I remember Bianchi asked me that one time, how's your depth in the offensive line? And I said, depth? What position does he play? We don't have a guy named Depth. No, we had 5, 6 good offensive linemen, and they all stayed healthy. So you don't need to worry about all that. But I tried to talk a little bit more positively and say we've got a good team that's ready to go, and hopefully we can play well enough to compete for the conference championship. And what? Right? Talking about competing for the conference championship? That's right. First year, and of course we went ahead and won it because the players believed, hey, we're good enough to win it. Somebody's got to tell them they're good enough to win, or they'll just play and never achieve much of anything. So that's what I tried to do is sort of inspire our players by saying we're capable of doing this, and now we got to go do it.
So the media poll comes out, and Florida's picked 5th, which is where I thought they would be, because everybody is basing it on last year.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And that's what these voters do. They base it on how good they lasting memory you be. And but I don't think you ever picked 5th, Steve. I think you were first or second every year.
Yeah, we were at least in the top 2 of the East, or maybe the top in the East almost every year after we got started. But it is interesting. LSU was picked in the West ahead of Bama. It was very close over there. Of course, Georgia was picked 1 and on down the line. But we're picked 5th in the East. And then I looked at the preseason all-conference team. Well, the reason Georgia and LSU are picked first on both sides, each team's got 6 players first team. You know how many first teamers we got? 0.
Yeah.
So we're not picked very high because they don't think our players are all that great, I guess, right now.
But again, they're going based on what they saw.
That's right. And the portals and the recruiting and all that. And so, I didn't realize we'd lost that many players in the portal until I read about it. Something like 24 or 5, something like that.
Yeah, but I do think it was Billy kind of cleaning house.
Yeah, you don't know if they're good players or bad players. That's what you don't know. So anyway, we picked up some guys, of course, and go from there. So did you see Steph Curry won the Lake Tahoe event?
I did. In fact, we can do our Campus USA play of the weekend right now. And it wasn't the eagle that he made on the last hole, but this was the hole-in-one. And the celebration was what I would do if I made another hole. I made 2.
Think you could run that far? I mean, he sprinted.
I don't know.
I
wouldn't get there that fast.
He put a sprint on. With his arms out wide like he's flying. And,
well, it's a big deal. You played in that tournament.
I played 25 years in it. And but I thought what was more neat, hole-in-one's a lot of luck involved in that, but he's a good player. He won the dang tournament, and he's the first current athlete, he's full-time basketball, to win it since Al Del Greco, the kicker, back in 2000. The guys have been winning, guys, former players, they play year-round golf, Marty Fish and all those guys. So, and then Romo, I think, won last year. But it was pretty neat of Steph to win that thing. He's a heck of an athlete, no question about it.
I saw on, people were saying, I wonder if he could play on the tour. And I go, come on, man. It's different. Yeah. You got to understand how you got to add 20 yards to every hole, first of all. And you know that.
Well, he can hit as far as most guys, though. He can.
He can. But, he's not going to, grind it out. I don't know if he can grind it out. Maybe he could. But I think he's making enough money playing basketball. Yeah. He doesn't need to worry about it.
Romo's a heck of a player, too. Last year when Romo won it, at last par 5, I think he hit driver 8 iron, something like that. And I think Steph did about the same thing, driver 8, 9 iron, something like that. And, of course, he had 9 iron, about 165 or 170 or so. What
was your highest finish there?
My first year, Pat, I went to it, and there was a bunch of celebrities there that weren't golfers, guys like Kenny Rogers and, guys that, in fact, I was paired up with him the first day. Lou Holtz and Darrell Royal were there. We were about the only coaches. But anyway, they had, you could sign up and stay an amateur, or you could take the money. And I didn't play any state amateurs or anything. So I said, I signed up, and I'll take whatever I win. So anyway, I shot 75, 76, 74, 9 over. I was 9 over for 3 days. That's back when we added them all up. And I finished 6th, but 2 guys ahead of me, Elway and this guy Wagner, stayed amateur. So I slid up to 4th place. So I finished 4th that first year, and they sent me a check for $20,500. I said, man, I have found my league right here.
Yeah.
And then next year I shot about the same thing, but they brought in Rick Roden and all these guys that could play.
Yeah.
So my 75s and 77s, that slid me down to about number 20.
Yeah.
And if I got 2,000, I was happy.
You still
After
made
that.
some money, though.
I may have paid for the trip, but
Yeah.
that was about it after that.
I did want to ask you about a former player of yours that made a big splash this week as a general manager, which is at the Tennessee Titans, Rand Carthen.
Rand Carthen,
I mean,
yeah.
did you, I just want to go back to when you got Rand Carthen here to Florida. That would have been, what, the 2000 recruiting
Right
class?
around there,
Yeah, and so what do you remember about, he was from Key West,
Key
right?
West.
Yeah.
I remember recruiting him down there, and I think Jim Collins helped recruit him down there. And I said, we ought to recruit a guy every year here. Spend a couple of days or so. No, we didn't go down there much, but Rand was a good player, good running back, and I don't know if he was ever a starter here, but wonderful guy, good teammate and all that kind of stuff. Played a little bit after I left, pretty much. But he was a personnel guy with the 49ers last year and got the job as general manager of the Tennessee Titans. So look for those guys to do well.
Did you see any of that in him? I mean, when he was here? I mean,
I just basically recruited him, and he wasn't a starter in 01.
was that hard to get him from Key West up to Gainesville?
I don't know how many offers he had, to tell you the truth. But, he was a good back. I don't know. Was he ever a starter
I think
here?
he started under
Some
Cook,
games,
yeah,
games here, there, and the other. Okay. But, good. Wonderful guy, obviously, to now be a general manager.
I think he didn't play a lot because of C4, Cedric Faison being here, and who was obviously a good starter as well. But I just think it's great that he's been able to do all this, and been able to become this,
No question about it.
It's funny how many guys go into so many different. I mean, some of them go into coaching, some of them go into administrating, but some of them become super agents like Trace Armstrong. Who's a great agent as well. So you see all these high school guys out here. Does this get you fired up to want to for football season?
Oh, they're fired up. Yeah, the high school convention sort of today. A lot of these guys getting a little publicity. Sort of like media day.
Yep, it
SEC teams bring 2 or 3 players. So the high school coaches have brought, I think, a lot of their seniors to the media day here at our Gridiron Grill restaurant. So. Yeah, it was nice talking to a few of the guys, and there's so many colleges now that a lot of these guys have a chance to get scholarships.
Right.
So I just tell them, man, play the best you can, have a wonderful attitude, and some good things will happen for you.
Did you ever go to the SEC media days with an agenda, or did you just go and just whatever came to your mind?
I usually just talk briefly about our team and go from there. I think that's about all we talked about. Tried to stay positive. Now I went to the coaches meeting one year trying to get some pay for the players, and of course they said that would never happen, Coach. Our commissioner told me that will never happen. College football players will never get paid. I said, yes, they will. Yeah. It's just a matter of time, and we never did it. And then we come with that cost of attendance. And then all of a sudden now it's, of course, wide open. You can give them $1 million if you want to. But I think you got to be smart about that NIL stuff. And make sure that the guys who are really your star players are getting the big money. And the other guys are getting money too now.
Right.
I think everybody at Georgia gets a minimum of $25,000. I think. I don't know.
That's probably true.
It's what you hear. And I'm not sure where we're at on that. It could be 10 or 15. I don't know. But that's just, and that's what I've tried to tell our coaches. Why don't we have a way of getting $5,000 to $8,000 to all the guys, and their parents could, come to games and pay for their hotel, meals, and so forth. And so now, obviously, they have enough money for their parents to travel well.
Yeah, it's Commissioner Sankey addressed that. He said I totally agree with him. Congress is the only one that can change it. And the state legislatures are not going to bond together and make changes in what they're doing. And I agree with what Greg McElroy said yesterday. We need transparency. We just need to know, like if you're a coach and you say, why didn't you get this kid? Why couldn't you get this kid in recruiting? Well, we couldn't afford him because you're not giving us enough money. You need to be able to know that,
Yeah, it was interesting, the Tennessee punishment they got, which I think is fair because the coaches and the players now at Tennessee, they had nothing to do with that.
You would have loved the same penalty in 90, right?
Well, the penalty we got, the infraction committee did not know that made us ineligible to be called SEC champ. They didn't know that.
Yeah.
They could have just said, you guys lose 3 scholarships or 4. I'd say that's fine. And I didn't know it until the season started. They said, well, you guys can't be called champion. And I said, well, you don't have to call us it, but if we win it, we're going to call ourselves the winners of the SEC. And we won the championship. You don't have to recognize us. And that's where we're at there. But the 90 team that won it, they made it so much easier for all the rest of those teams that I was here down the road.
Did you guys make a trophy up for that year?
Yeah, they made one up that said first in SEC or something like that. But anyway, all the guys on that team, they know we won it. I know we won it. And just if they said 96 team, you had a guy that took $50, you guys can't be called champs on the 96 national champ. I'd say, okay, if you don't want to call us that, that's fine.
Yeah.
So we won it anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I'm curious because you had a great relationship with Mike Leach, and so did I. And Commissioner Sankey, really nice. Didn't wear a tie yesterday in honor of Mike Leach because Mike Leach wondered why ties survived, but powdered wigs did not. That was a big question he was different. You know that, but I love the guy, and your son coached for him, obviously.
Yeah, Mike Leach had his own offense, the air raid offense, and I don't know I think Mississippi State's already changed now. They're not going to run that this coming year. So I don't think anybody runs it anymore. I think he was the last one, and he was only one game from not winning 60% of his games.
Right.
So you're supposed to win 60% to be eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame. So
I put him in anyway.
Yeah, Howard Snellenberger never won 60%.
Wow.
And all his people have been trying to get him in, but it hadn't worked yet.
I guess Louisville, he lost a bunch of games, and that knocked him down, right?
Yeah.
I think Les Miles, when they got vacated, all those wins went below 60%. Yeah. But yeah, Mike Leach was certainly a different dude, but he was a fun guy to talk to. Ian Scott in the house there. Great to see him, and one of your former players there. The head coach at Gainesville High now. And
Scott.
But so Clark Lee gets an extension. What about that?
How about that?
Yeah.
I was telling somebody my first year at Duke, we went 5-6, and we lost 5 games, 2 by 7 points, 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3. That team easily could have been 8-3, but we went 5-6. So I went in to see the AD. You talk about 1-year contracts. That's what I had. I had a 1-year contract, and I was making 75. And I said, well, heck, he probably won't even give me any kind of raise. And I went in and said, what am I going to make next year? And Butter said, actually, you did pretty good. I said, 5-6. That's not very good, is it? And he said, well, you were competitive in every game but one. And I said, well, we didn't win, though. And he said, well, I'm still going to give you a 10% raise to, what's that, 82.5, I think. Then the next year we went 7-3-1, and I went in and said, what are you going to pay me next year? And he said, I'm going to give you another 10% raise. And I said, so that'd take me up to about 90. And I said, well, I read in the paper where Mac Brown's making $250. We've beaten them both years in a row. And he said, oh, we don't have the money they do. But anyway, he said, come back tomorrow, I'll see what I can do. So I came back, He says, here's what I can do. I can give you $30,000 extra, but you have to agree to stay 2 more years. You know, you couldn't leave. And I said,
So this
no.
would have been what year?
This was 88.
88, okay.
Yeah, going into 89.
Okay.
And I said, no, I'll just be a free agent coach every year. That's so that's what I was at Duke. Now,
It's a good thing you didn't sign that because you couldn't have come to Florida, right?
yeah, he told me later, he said, I would have let you out of that deal, but I didn't want to, no, it wasn't worth $30,000 to just stay for another year or whatever it did. Yeah. Anyway, but that's the way it was back then. But Clark Lee, you know what his record is in 2 years at Vandy?
It's not good.
7-17.
But he beat the Gators.
Beat the Gators and Kentucky.
Yeah.
So they're making progress, yeah. And he's an alumnus there.
Yeah.
And I think that was smart of the Vandy.
And you're not going to go in the right direction if you make a move on him.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And I tell you what, I think there's something to alumnus coaching at their school.
Yeah.
Look at Georgia.
Worked here.
Kirby said my coordinators now, Bobo, went here. I got Muschamp and the other guy, the defensive co-coordinators, they both went there. And he was talking about, on the TV today, I was watching part of it, that his staff that won the national championship 2 years ago, they're all still there. They lost Monken,
Right.
but another guy was right there to replace him. So he's basically got the same staff going into the 3rd year of trying to win the national 3 years in a row.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Of course, I'm surprised that the media boys picked LSU, but to win the whole thing. And they've got a great team. They got a great quarterback, Jaden Daniels. I love him. You got 2 great defenders. I mean, Mason Smith, his health is going to have a lot to do with it. But if he's able to be 100% and not get hurt again like he did last year early in the season.
Brian Kelly was the coach of the year.
Yeah.
They picked him to be the coach of the year. So, yeah, LSU, they've had a remarkable year. The women won the basketball. The national men won the baseball, of course.
Do you
And
believe that
football.
it like leaks over? I mean, that there's
They've got a
more you
camaraderie
win
there
on campus.
Yeah, their AD and Kim Mulkey was out at the baseball tournament. Oh yeah, they all pull for each other, and we tried to do that when I was here with all the women's sports and so forth.
You were big into women's tennis, I know
and
that.
Billy Donovan and his guys and so forth. And, I think it's smart if they all pull for each other and go. And having some, some Gators. We got Mike Peterson here. Yeah. I wish we had a couple more here, there, and the other, but still, it's good.
Billy used you to help recruit too. I mean, he would bring him guys. I mean, he embraced football. He didn't ignore it or push it away. He embraced it, he went to a lot. He took his guys to a lot of games, and I know he brought some guys up to your office, didn't he?
Yeah, they'd come by early. I think Mike Miller.
Mike Miller, yeah.
I think it was the day we beat Tennessee here, and he said he had so much fun at football games. I'm going to Florida. So anyway.
So you're going to take full credit for Mike Miller, which that's good. I mean, that's a good one to take credit for.
No, it was the game itself. He said he'd never seen a football game. He's from North Dakota or South Dakota, somewhere up there. He'd never seen anything like that. 90,000 people going crazy and so forth.
So that would have been 99?
I think it was the 95 season. We beat them 62-24 game.
Yeah. That game was crazy. That was the craziest game. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. But we'll let Coach go now, unless you got anything else, Coach.
That was about it.
Who are you picking to win the Open, the British Open?
British Open. You know what? I almost want to say McIlroy after the way he won that tournament, birdie in the last 2 holes. I think a lot of people admire him right now because he said, I'm not doing that live golf thing. He wants to stick with the PGA.
I'm rooting for him,
a lot of people feel that way. I don't know what's going to happen with that so-called merger. I don't know if it's going to go through. What do you think?
I don't know. That is a good
wait
question.
And see. I think it's a wait and see.
Yeah, it's a wait and see situation, and we don't know if Liv's going to completely go away or what. It's weird. Golf's been weird, but I'm just going to sit back and watch the British Open
That's all
for
we
the
do.
next 4 mornings.
Yeah, that's right. Get up early and watch the Open.
That's right, which I did with the Scottish Open too.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, we'll let you go. We'll be back with more on another Dooley Noted podcast, including Robbie Andrew not Robbie Andrew. Jeff Cardozo today is doing Yes, No, Where, Maybe. here on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Hi there, this is head ball coach Steve Spurrier, and I'm here with my wife Jerry and our good friend Sherry Houston, the executive director of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of North Central Florida. We're thrilled to announce that the 2-year anniversary of our restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, is coming up on August 14th. Last year we had so much fun celebrating with everybody that we're doing it bigger and better this year. We're hosting a special dinner and celebration that will include a chef's choice of premium buffet or your favorite Spurrier Gridiron Grill menu, including a filet mignon carving station, shrimp and grits, short rib risotto, wonderful seafood options, and many dessert options also.
Like my famous chocolate chip cookies.
Proceeds being donated to the local Ronald McDonald House.
Thrilled to once again partner with Coach Jerry and the Spurrier Gridiron team to raise funds for the Ronald McDonald House, benefiting families and children experiencing medical emergencies.
Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be donating 11% of all of our money from food and 66% of drink sales to the Ronald McDonald House.
Go to Spurriers.com right now and reserve a ticket before they sell out.
We'll have wonderful food, special guests, and a limited edition of the 2nd year anniversary collector's coins, as well as prizes like a dinner with me and Jerry. We couldn't have become one of the busiest and most successful restaurants in the Southeast without your support. So we want to celebrate with the most important people of our team, and that's you.
I want to celebrate with some of those cookies. Do you have any of those?
Sure do. Right here for you.
Oh, thank you.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the Paralegal Legal Secretary Bonus Program.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another duly noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, and it's a great pleasure to bring in our great friend Jeff Cardozo, as I call him, number 41, or Austin's dad. Those are the 2 things I call him. What's up, Jeffy?
Fair enough. Yeah, it's good to be both of those, and always good to join you, Dools.
Well, we're going to play Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. Obviously, he's coming to us from the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line. And, of course, Yes, Nowhere, Maybe is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Street dining done the right way. Sponsor not only of this show, but of the Tailgate, which we'll be doing later today, right?
No, we will.
Yep. All right, number 1 on Yes, Nowhere, Maybe. Rory McIlroy or John Rahm, who are playing together, one of them wins the British Open.
Yes, because you love Rory McIlroy so much.
I do.
I want to see you happy, and anytime that you can be in a good mood will be a good thing. So I will wish for it. I will hope for it. I will not bet it, but I will say that yes, Rory McIlroy will continue to stay hot and piss excellence over there across the pond and win.
I'm still rooting against all the Liv guys. I don't care if Liv is going away. I'm still rooting against them all. Number 2 on Yes, Nowhere, maybe brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. The Angels trade Ohtani before the break. Before the trade deadline, I think, is in a week and a half, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, it's about that. I would say maybe to that. I think if you're making a business decision, I think it's a no-brainer that you do that. You try to get what San Diego did and, do all the draft picks for the Soto deal, that kind of thing, and just rejuvenate your franchise. But on the other side of it, he's the most talked about, most watched Major League Baseball player right now. So do you then look at it and say, well, the rest of the year, he's the biggest draw. Everybody's going to show up just to see Ohtani because we're not going to have him anymore. And then you just do it that way. I guess this just depends on what kind of decision you want to make for your franchise. If it were me, I would trade him, look for a really good deal, get 5 or 6 good prospects, and try to make yourself relevant event. Because you still got Mike Trout, and he's one of the best players in baseball, and he's never even played in the postseason. You got to do something to get him some help for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm Mike Trout and you get rid of the best player on your team, the other best player on your team, of course, Trout's out with an injury right now, right?
Hamate. You know what that is?
A hamate, right?
Yeah.
Which I'd never heard of until Rivera got it.
Yeah, a little thing right here on your thumb.
Yeah, maybe that's what's bothering me right there.
It could be.
I've been kind of doing this a lot, the L for LSU, because they were picked to win the SEC. So we'll see what happens with Ohtani. Finally, on Yes, Nowhere, maybe brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. The LSEC teams have been coming out. It really doesn't matter what the preseason teams are, as you know, Jeff, and you know how I feel about them. But at the end of the year, there will be a Gator on the All-SEC team, first team.
That has to be a yes. I think Billy Napier's really assembled some talent. You've got a couple of running backs that are legit. I know there's some other good ones, but I mean, this beefy offensive line. Mertz ran 23 miles an hour the other day and broke the internet, I think. So maybe people think that he's better than what he is. So yeah, I think for sure there's too much talent on this team to not have at least one guy on that first team.
Yeah, but I like Coach Spurrier and I were talking about it earlier. The problem is all they know, all the media boys and all the coaches and everybody else knows is what they've seen. Not what they are gonna see, and that's what it's based on. All these all SEC teams, but I did like the pro.
You said first team. It could be Crawshaw because he's got to punt 50 times a game. So hey, he would still be right.
He's going to be worn out. He could be worn out by the end of the year. I did like the Pro Football Focus, which is kind of judges you based on how good a player you are, not on your stats. Had Jason Marshall and Princely both on the first team, so they may know a little more about what's going on here. So,
I agree. No, it's anytime you look at that analysis stuff and you actually statistics, numbers, that means more than just the eye test. So I like it a lot.
All right, we'll let you go, Jeff. Thanks a lot for being on Yes, No Way, or Maybe. The great Jeff Cardozo joining us as always, or not as always, but as often on Yes, No Way, or Maybe. Robbie is at the beach. That's why he couldn't be on today, which I think we'll see what happens Thursday. I've got a really cool guest that I'm hoping is able to join us. And if she is, that'll be great. And then if not, then we'll get Robbie to come on. We'll settle for Robbie. All right, let's get to our games of the weekend, brought to you, as always, by The Swamp. They've got so many summer drink specials going over there, of course, including Saturday Sangria. They've got the Sunday Brunch. They've got a lot of, I think there's all-you-can-drink beer for a $10 cover over there. So much stuff going on at The Swamp. And we appreciate Ryan and Kyle, for being sponsors of Games of the Weekend. Well, let's get right to it. The British Open. Most of this stuff is Thursday. The British Open starts Thursday. It comes on the air at 1:30 in the morning. I don't think I'll get up for it. I know I won't be up for it. Now, if a meteor hits our house, and I'll be awake, so I'll watch it. But it is on Peacock at 1:30 in the morning. Then it goes over to USA, and then it goes to back to Peacock for the last hour. But it's on USA from I think noon to 3. So it's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to watch it. That's the schedule for this week. I think I said Games of the Weekend. It's Games of the Week. The Women's World Cup, there is, if you want to get just here, you can have 2 TVs going. You have the British Open on one and the Women's World Cup on the other. Norway is taking on New Zealand at 3 in the morning. There you go. We're going to be up early for all this stuff. The U.S. doesn't play till Friday night, and we'll talk about that a little more later. SEC Media Days continues. For those of you wondering, because I got a question from my buddy Zach Pillar, who texted me wanting to know when Billy was going to be speaking, because he lives in Nashville. He's got a couple of bars up there. They're unbelievable. Great guy. He's on at 2 o'clock on Wednesday. So that's when Billy will be speaking. I'll be interested to see what he has to say. Of course, it continues through Thursday. So you'll have a lot of that to watch. You can take it in small doses. I think that's pretty much it. Those are the Swamp Games of the Week, brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant. We appreciate them. Let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. I actually asked Kyle to come on today and do the yes, no, where, maybe, but they're redoing the kitchen, and so the place is closed, and they were having a party today at the lake, so certainly understand. We'll get him on another time, absolutely. I'm going to make it very simple. Rory, Rahm, or the field. Those are your choices to win the British Open. No, I'm sorry. Since it's a weekday award, let's say Thursday. Rory, Rahm, or the field leads the British Open. Now, if there's a tie, and so many of you are in because I screwed up last week's Leonardo's and thought the Cubs were playing, and it was the White Sox, and whichever one you took, I gave it to you. So I've got tons of qualifiers now already. We'll probably have to pick one pretty soon. But Rory, Rahm, or the field Thursday, who has a low score? Again, if they're all tied, or 2 of them are tied, if it's Rahm and a guy, or Rory and a guy, or Rory and Rahm, we'll qualify you all. Those are our Leonardo. That's our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, which we always love doing our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And of course, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the area of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Check out their 5-star Google reviews or set an appointment at hklawfl.com, or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. Let's start with number 1, and I talked about Rand Carthen making a splash. DeAndre Hopkins signed with them, and that's a big deal. It gives their quarterback somebody to throw to. Don't forget, this is a team that's gotten rid of some great receiver talent over the years, so they had to make a move like this, and that they got him was certainly a good thing. And again, I knew Rand a little bit when he was here. He was a good player and went on to the NFL, but didn't really make it in the NFL. But man, has he made it in the NFL? Now the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, so good for him. Number 2, really the most interesting thing that came out of SEC Media Day so far to me was when Brian Kelly said, "Do we have Georgia's roster? We're not there yet." I like that. I like that he was honest about it. He goes, "No, we're not there. We're not going to be as good as Georgia. We might have 22 that can play with them," and I'm paraphrasing here. and beat them if we play them again. And we'll find out if we play them again because it'll be in the SEC title game. Last year they got throttled by them, even with the talent they have. But I thought it was interesting that he said that. And look, I'm not sure. I think Alabama may have the roster Georgia has, but that may be the only team, just with all the recruits they brought in. That's the problem with Georgia, is they're not falling off in recruiting, and they're just going to continue to get better. We got to find a way for them to lose some games. I don't know. I don't know if Florida is going to be the team to knock them off, but it did happen a couple of years ago. I remember that. Remember that very well. All right, and finally, number 3 on Hesser and Kipke's 3 things. This story with the running back situation in the NFL is fascinating. Nobody wants any running backs. They don't want to pay running backs anymore. I saw where Jeff Darlington tweeted this out, that the franchise tag has dropped for running backs. For everybody else, it's gone way up, and for running backs, it's dropped. And NFL guys are saying basically, hey, look, we running backs, we can get a dime a dozen. And that's always been the knock on it. And I think people freaked out when the kid from Texas, Bijan Robinson, got drafted very high. And, you don't need to spend money on running backs. And I saw where I think it was Orlovsky today on ESPN said, we need to do something about this. The NFL needs to do something. No, you don't. You sign whoever you need to sign. You pay whoever you feel like you need to sign. You have people, capologists, and you have general managers. You have all these people looking into all this. You don't need to make that right. What do you mean make it right? No. You do what you have to do. I feel bad for the running backs, only making $11 million, but it's not that big a deal. All right, that is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. We appreciate them. Let's get to our Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the weekend. This is the time of year where it's tough, but I did watch a lot of Alejandro Tosti's rounds on the Korn Ferry Tour. He had the lead, but couldn't hold on to it. Shot 1 under the last day, but he finished 16 under, finished 4th. But he is our Gator of the weekend, and he is 7th on the Korn Ferry. Now, he plays well enough, he could get on the tour, and I think he will. He's really a good player. But I think Alejandro Tosti has been our Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the weekend before for what he did at Florida. And, of course, great Gator. Oh, I think I've got everything but Pat Dooley's story time. Let's get to Pat Dooley's story time. And I was thinking about this because I was looking at the Hall of Fame game coming up, and I was remembering that I was very lucky and that I got to go to 3 different Hall of Fame inductions. And one was Zonka when he was the general manager of the Bulls. One was Leroy Selman. Somehow I talked my way into that one. And the other was, it wasn't Emmett, it was Jack Youngblood. I went to those 3. So I went to 3 of them, and it's always great to be there. But I remember when Zonka went in, and Bill Stanfield was there, and I went up and I was interviewing some former Dolphin players, and he told me a story I'll never forget. I don't think I've told this story on this show yet. He told me a story I'll never forget about when Florida lost to Georgia 51-0. Now on that week, Ray Graves changed his offensive coordinator, made him his defensive coordinator, and vice versa. It gave everybody the easiest lead of all time. It looked like Florida switched their coordinators the way they play, and they lost 51-0 in the rain. It was miserable. My dad, I've told this story before, my dad said, I want to see if Florida scores, and they did score. We stayed for the whole game. But Bill Stanfield told me the story, who was a great defensive lineman for Georgia and for, obviously, the Dolphins, that about the end of the 3rd quarter, they started asking for cocktails from the Georgia fans, not only the students, but all the fans, and they were bringing them rum and cokes, vodka and sevens and everything, and they sat there on the bench, pounded down cocktails during the game. They didn't need to get back in the game, and it never became an issue. But can you imagine if that happened these days? People would lose their minds, lose them. Anyway, that's my Pat Dooley story time, brought to you by Eastlake Pediatrics. We appreciate Eastlake. We appreciate all of our great sponsors. Okay, we're done. All right, we got through it. We're going to try to do the show from home. It'll come out Friday. We'll see how it goes. That's all I'm going to say. Hopefully we'll have a special guest. I'll let you know. Till then, I am Pat Dooley for Zach, who did a great job today. I am deep. I'm way back, and I am out of here.